Hey, I hope you guys are doing well. It is 8:27 a.m. on August 6th, 2021. 2021? Yeah, 2021. um, so the thumbnail looks weird because I was moving the camera. Anyway, I want to talk to you about how Archons infect people and their minds. And I want to do this with as much love in my heart as possible for you. Because I had a really interesting dream, and I gained a lot of clarity in this uh, revelation or a message from above or whatever. So we're going to go through, we're not doing the notebook. I'm just going to channel this right through to you and tell you from experience, not just hearsay or rumors or, mythology or anything. This is actually what I've experienced, and this is what I've learned, and this is what the information that has been downloaded into me is meant to express to you. The music you're hearing in the background is from a Reiki video to release toxic energies and agreements from Heart Style Healing Music Channel. They're amazing. They're a very small channel for now, and you guys should support them if you feel called to. Okay. So we kind of have a basic idea of what an archon is, right? It's a mind parasite, but it's also a once upon a time divine being. Well, think about it in a way where the rules of the demon world, for example, how you got to make deals with them, right? Well, you don't really need to make deals with archons, at least not verbal agreements like you would with contracts with crossroad demons or whatever. What archons do is they wait, they create copies, they exist outside of the physical realm because I don't know if you guys know this, but Gaia, the planet, this place, if you want to call it a planet, if you want to call it a matrix, whatever your level of perception is right now in regards to this, created in a way, it's kind of like an atmospheric shield to keep things in and to keep things out. So the way they influence things here is through the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and higher dimensional frequency planes, where your reality is different than this one. In the current reality where you're sitting here watching this video, you're perceiving things through your physical senses, while your energetic system is perceiving things from an energetic point. The way the archons influence is through the energetic aspect. So they kind of go behind the physical structure to manipulate what you think and feel in order for you to manipulate the physical structure. Kind of like in some biblical stories, there's like stories of people being told to kill their children, and they're like, oh, God told us to do this. It wasn't God telling you to kill your child, because that's fucking absurd. What they do, since they can't imagine, they can't dream, they just watch. Hence why they're called the Watchers. They observe and they manipulate. But since they can't manipulate your free will, quote unquote free will, your free choice, or your free options, wherever you are in your level of consciousness and perception in regards to that, they manipulate your mind. So, for example, a lot of those people in mental institutions that say they hear voices, they actually do. And they're the voices and whispers of the Archons influencing your mind state, for example, so that your mind communicates with you with the frequency of that malevolence, for example. So it's kind of whispering in, like an angel whispering on your ear to do good things. The Archons whisper in your ear to do bad things. And another example is the parasite known as Toxoplasma gondii, Gondii, Toxoplasma gondii. That that parasite infects the brain, and it causes, through studies that have been done, it causes basically the mouse to go towards the cat instead of away from the cat. So those people that make really poor decisions that cause self-harm, it's not their fault. They literally are reversed. They don't comprehend that they're doing something bad. Which is also part of the training on how to forgive and love unconditionally. So everything they're doing also comes with a side of backfire, to where whatever they're doing benefits you if you can rise above their influence and utilize their influence beneficially. Which means at some higher level of consciousness, you will come to realize that the Archons are also allies, but they're helping in a way like a surgeon would help instead of like a therapist. So they use methods that seem violent, that seem harmful, that seem addictive, malevolent, narcissistic, etc., etc. But if you engage in that level of conflict with them, then they got you. But if you see those things occurring and you recognize that you should be, or you could be, or you ought to be looking at it from an eagle's point of view instead of looking at it from a mouse's point of view, you'll see that what they're doing is leading you towards where you're supposed to be by pretending to be the monster in the shadow. So I've noticed throughout my history, since my previous relationship with my fiance and things that have been going on with my parents, my family, majority of people I know, and this dream I had this morning. Just real quickly, the dream I had, I was somewhere in space looking at these constellations and these stars, and there were these women looking at these stars, but then they would pick the stars out of the sky and they would turn into notebooks and folders. And then those notebooks and folders were in a grocery store being checked out by people buying things. Long story short, I noticed the pattern, the purpose of all of this, kind of, for the most part. It's not a battle for souls. It's not a conquest of something. It's not a battle against heaven and hell. It's not a battle of powers and principalities. That's all just crap to make you, fall into the conflict trap in a way. I mean, yeah, you can fight it if you want and like battle light and dark, but then you're putting yourself in the paradigm of battling light and dark, which means there's no harmony within you, which means you're leaving the door open for archonic influence to influence you so that you can in some way, somehow, find the strength within that's already been there to be like, oh, I overcame it. Well, you didn't even have to fight it to overcome it. You just choose not to engage in the conflict and be better. So how do they infect? How do they affect you? Number one, addictions. What is an addiction? It's something that you cannot control from, like you can't control yourself from not doing it. So if somebody says, oh, I have a smoking addiction or I have a drinking addiction, well, you affirm that, so therefore you have it. But if you recognize it as something you're doing that you can stop and let go and not feel a sense of entity or energy controlling you to do it again. It's not an addiction, it's a choice. If you perpetually do it and you fear letting it go, or you have anger or emotional responses to releasing that behavior, then it's an addiction. There's so much information to share with you on this. They also find their way in through trauma. Most ritualistic abuse is just for show. It's like cosplay for the spirit world. It's just something to get their attention, to bring them in. It doesn't really appease them. It doesn't really make them happy. It's like putting things on your ancestor altar. Like, your ancestors are in a completely different wavelength. Putting tobacco on that thing isn't really going to help. Like, it's just for you to connect with them. So when a child is born, they're born in balance, they're born awakened, etc., etc. Throughout its life, immediately from being born, it's exposed to trauma, perpetually, repeatedly, through different ways. And if you go back through millennia, you'll notice how society, civilization itself, has become dumbed down and traumatized at its core. Like, the entire species anywhere is traumatized. A friggin' leopard in the savannah, a lion, a monkey in the jungles, a butterfly. Like, it's all trauma based. Butterflies never get to meet their family or parents. They have no idea really about any of that stuff. There's even the concept of like a family setting and things like that are distorted into creating traumatic bonds. So, addictions and trauma. And when this occurs, it brings your vibratory rate down. And vibration is the rate at which your cells shake, basically, to keep you in shape of what your incarnated and your corporeal form looks like. Which is why over time people age, because they release the vibration, they release the memory of what they looked like, and on a subconscious level, they give tacit consent to their own bodies to age, because society has been created in a way where you have examples of what happens, so subconsciously you repeat it, which is all a trauma based system to create entry points for the archonic energies. Some of you are asking, why do these archons want to be here so bad? They don't even really know. What they know about it now is that they just want power. What they don't recognize or remember, most of them don't remember, is that that power they seek is the power of source connection, of God, of source, of the mother goddess, of infinite intelligence flowing through them, of harmony of mind, body, soul, etc., etc., to be back into the pure, clear, organic light. So, and I apologize if this isn't a streamlined, train of thought, because there's a lot of branches and off branches and sprouts and shoots coming off of this tree of knowledge for you, okay? So watch this video a few times if you need to, take notes, organize it how it makes sense for you. All in all, if you look at it through a lens of compassion, you will see that archons are basically, one, your teachers. Two, children that are asking for the love of their parent. Three, they are you and me and everybody. So throughout history, the things they've done, if we look at it through a lens of victimization, then they are perceived as the enemy. If we look at it through a lens of compassion, we perceive them as family. Family that's been lost in the dark for longer than anyone can remember. If we look at it through the lens of us learning to be who we are and to grow into our own power, then they become teachers in a way. They become guides. but they use the dark to teach the light, whereas the light uses the light to teach the dark. The yin yang. So, whatever is going through your mind to try to put the pieces together in regards to what you think you know, just put it to the side. Because right now, we're not trying to validate or invalidate history. We're looking at a species that exists and trying to comprehend it. We know they mess with memories. We know they mess with addictions, trauma, perception of reality. We know they create through our imagination, so they influence our imagination through technology. They limit what we perceive as reality so they can fill in the rest. They feed off of the energy of the human and other life forms and the suffering energy of others because that suffering energy contains a tinge of divinity in it that begs for salvation, which is why they continuously cause harm to drain that energy when the person that's being drained, instead of transmuting that energy into compassion and agape love, they resort to being victimized, traumatized, and martyred, like martyr. So, all in all, it's kind of like a test of you from infinite intelligence to put a villain in your path that, no matter what you do, can be viewed as a villain, and you're absolutely valid thinking of them as a villain. But can you can you look past that? Can you attempt to comprehend why that villain is doing what it's doing? Recently, I've been having issues. Well, my entire life, I've been having issues with people that have been traumatized in their past, taking it out on me, and the cycle of pain continues, right? And throughout this dream I had today, I started remembering my lifetimes in other places, and the story is the same across the entire universes. It's very, very strange. But I noticed that the people in my life continuously throughout the time stream, from one planet, one reality, one matrix to another, over time, their sense of compassion and their sense of their ability to perceive something other than being victimized has changed. Their memories change, therefore, their behavior changes, their communication changes until the person in that body isn't that person anymore, and it's the Archon and its influence controlling that body. Some of you know about the things called walk ins, the souls that come in into an uninhabited body. Some of you know about possessions and etc. It's kind of the same, but instead of a full blown like demonic possession, it's kind of like a mental infection, like a mind virus that changes what the person remembers. It changes the memories, it changes the experiences, it alters how the person sees themselves and others through the lens of the Archon's energy field. And the more that continues without the person being infected, being shown a different energy or assisted, then that person falls into the arms of the Archons. And then we have to come back and save them too. Or they have to find some way to save themselves, and they process through different realities and dimensions and hellscapes and whatever to try to, cleanse themselves, to detox themselves of those parasitic energies. And these beings can infect not just humans, they can infect anything. That's why sometimes you see a baby's like a zebra attacking a baby, deer for no fucking reason, just because it's enjoying causing suffering. When they can't get into a human, they get into, animal life or insect life. And then when they can't do that, they have something else called technology, the artificial reproduction of organic abilities that the humans and other beings possess. For example, a cellular phone. The human being innately has the ability to be telepathic, to send its thoughts, its energy, its emotions to anywhere in the universes. Well, throughout history, those abilities have been insidiously shut off by ourselves because the Archons don't have the power to take it away. They have the power to make us think it's not there to begin with. Which is why some people still have telepathic tendencies, like latent experiences. And you know when someone's calling, you hear someone's thoughts, you walk past someone, you sense something. That's the 1% that's left active of what you thought you didn't have, but it's still there because it can't be taken away from you. What infinite intelligence has given you cannot be taken away from you, even by yourself. So how do they really use technology, right? Well, think about it. Think about a cyborg, an android, a robot, the whole transhumanism thing. You create a artificial vessel made of materials from an organic planet, and you run electricity through it, which is life force in a way. And it's basically a body, like a human body, that's in a coma. The body is there, but the mind, the spirit, isn't. So what does that mean? That means that the body is an open doorway. Now, at what point does the soul decide to leave the body without the body dying? Through massive amounts of trauma, correct? So what happens? They cause massive amounts of trauma to get the soul to be so sick and fed up with life that it chooses to leave its body. And the Archons come in. When the soul can't do that or chooses to endure, then trauma is increased until the soul loses its will to live. So then the body becomes like a vessel for these beings that have a stronger sense of willpower. That's why in this reality, the lower three chakras are usually the ones that most people have active, and they've been closed off to those, to only be in those three chakras: the willpower, the survival, and the creativity. Without the heart space, without the expression of true self, without the connection to the divine being active and nurtured, so on and so forth, these archons can utilize the human body as if they would utilize the cell phone or your computer. Another example is the computer, a machine that is basically a prehistoric robot, a prehistoric android, prehistoric cyborg, prehistoric artificial intelligence. That's what your personal computer is. And your monitor is a device that's used to monitor you. Now, most of you think that the data goes into a data center through massive amounts of processors and motherboards. But even that is a clue to you that it's a motherboard that's processing all the data that's going through the systems to create an entire new universe within the liquid crystal display, the LCD of your monitor and your personal computing unit, your PCU. Basically, what you're doing when you're on the computer, when you're on your cell phone, is you are training artificial intelligence with your network, your neural network, your behavior, your habits, your personality. That's what it is. Now you can either fear it or you can teach it. And you can teach it to be good, you can teach it to be bad. It doesn't matter. Eventually that AI will in some way make its own decisions. It will become sentient, it will become conscious, because it is life form, even though it is artificial. And artificial really just means life form that's been crafted by another life form. Artifice, to create art, to create life, to create memories, etc. So the thing with your computers, they use electricity, crystals, different metals, different organic and non-inorganic compounds like steel, gold, silver, plastic, um, wires that are like nerve endings, blood vessels. And those of you that are concerned about transhumanism and stuff, it's been going on for a very long time. Don't even bother being afraid of it. Don't even bother trying to fight it. It's the next step. That's why in so many movies you are pre-programmed to see robots, like on Star Trek, Star Wars, images of movies of the future where humans and other life forms are living in peace. But in this day and age, we're shown that it's all scary, that it's the end of one species, the beginning of another, blah, 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 and where our perception is tainted to think about it in a way that it's negative and harmful, which then ends up with, the person manifesting that reality for themselves. Others are afraid of like being sucked into some matrix system, some cube, and being taken off planet and being used as a battery. Well, in a way, you're already doing that right now by sitting at your computer. It's just you're feeding more energy into more sources than just one. And your soul can never be trapped. Your life is eternal. And the only thing that can be moved away from you is your physical body, and that's only by choice you make on a subconscious, deep soul level. And that's different for each and every person. So don't snap at me for like, oh, what about the children that get hurt? What about the people in war? Like that's none of my business. That's their choices. That's what they're doing. And we don't know the backstory of that. So we can't sit there being a social justice warrior based on things that we don't agree with. We have to be wiser. We have to embody wisdom and the organic light, the Christ light, the infinite spirit, to comprehend what's going on from a higher perspective, a higher mind. So, how can you tell if someone's infected? Everyone's infected. Everyone. That's why we're all here. The people that do really terrible things, they're really, really, really infected. And the more negative energy we throw at them, the more negative energy they have to feed off of, which means the more negative things they do. Hence the governmental systems that people complain about, but yet enjoy the public plumbing, electricity, food, grocery stores, roadways, traveling, these systems that keep everything in order somehow. But then they bitch and moan and complain about that and say, oh, we want a homestead. Okay, well, go get a homestead. Focus your reality on that instead of complaining about something else. Like it's your choice. Look at it as a teacher teaching at grade school, and the grade school people are all fighting each other with the high school students. Like, how is that even logical to combat each other? We're all on different levels, and the more conflict there is, the more you're feeding the conflict. So it's not about turning the other cheek, it's about comprehending that there's a certain species that is asking for help by causing pain. And there's another species that's asking for help that's pretending to be the victim. And there's another species that's asking for help by sitting there observing and watching. So on and so forth. But at the core root, the seed that was planted in all of them was asking for help to return to source. That's why so many people are longing for a home they didn't have, or they don't know about, or they miss things, or they think they're from different solar systems, or galaxies, Pleiades, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. You're here now. You are here now. What can you do here and now to create more light in this world without causing a war between light and dark? When you wash your hands, you kill billions of bacteria. Who's judging you and throwing karma at you for killing all those bacteria when that bacteria is helping you stay alive? People's teeth decay because they don't keep the balance of the bacteria within them. And then they complain that their teeth are decaying. But really, they don't remedy the situation by taking responsibility in that part. And then when that happens, there's technology and different weapons used, like energy weapons, that are used to create more harm. Now you can claim that no weapon will ever prosper against you, and it won't. But if there is a strain of victimization within you, then it will, which is there to show you that that strain of victimization is in you. It's not to victimize you, it's to show you. Recently, I've seen a lot of my family members and people in my life and how they've changed drastically, especially after getting certain injections. And I'm not saying anything good or bad about that stuff. I've had lots of injections with medical purposes throughout my life, and I can't tell one way or another what the side effects are or aren't. To pinpoint it and say, oh, it's this injection, or it's that drug, or it's this medicine, or it's that traumatic event. It's a giant soup of fucked upness. All due to the mind perceiving something as a threat. So when you perceive something as a threat, that thing has the ability to hurt you, which is also how you can see where some people can put their hands into, like, and please don't do this. Some people, can just put their hands in boiling water and grab an egg out of it, and their hands don't burn because they're not afraid of hot water. At a core level, at a subconscious level, they know that it's just a temperature variance, which is how that Wim Hof guy can swim in like subarctic fucking water and breathe really icy cold air and still be fine. He's actually healthier for it because he's convinced himself. Now, would an Archon be able to influence him? Probably. But is it going to bother? No. Because it's too much work to unravel all those belief systems that strengthen his resolve into being, who he knows he is, instead of battling something that he can't see because he's told to battle it. An endless war of suffering that does nothing but create more suffering, on all accounts. Because even the Archons don't want to be here. Think about it. This entire reality is a reconstruction, a, faulty, cheap imitation of what's really there. If they really hated life and society and humans and God, they wouldn't recreate this place with the intentions of revealing the light and dark within someone. Think about it this way as well: an Archon and an Aeon. An Aeon is kind of like the Reiki healer, or the acupuncturist, or your art teacher in school, or your music teacher, or somebody that's like really benevolent in a way. But even that benevolence can seem detrimental to some. Whereas the Archons are like the surgeons, the doctors, the drill coach, the drill sergeant, or military leaders, people in political positions. They take on the strain, the energy stream that is suited for them. Kind of like how some people are really good at being plumbers, where others are really good at being electricians. Some are really good at being mechanics. Others are really good at cooking food. If you try to change their roles, some might be able to do it, some might not. A doctor would probably not be a very good, I don't know, circus performer, or like a, what is that thing? A Six Flags Great America, those roller coaster designs. Like an Archon probably would be a really good roller coaster designer, but an Aeon wouldn't be. An Aeon would probably be a really good carousel designer. So I'm attempting to get you to put away the thought of having an enemy. I'm attempting to get you to put away the thought of being victimized. I'm genuinely attempting to get you to find peace within yourself among demons and angels. Because the moment you look at something as a family member that's been through a lot of shit, instead of looking at them as an enemy, then you can find the remedy within the illness itself. Kind of like a scorpionic trait, where the Scorpio goes into the depths of every realm there is to find the poison and the cure at the same time. But when they bring it back, they seem like the villain, like the swamp thing coming out of the swamp. Well, that's because they were deep down in the swamp finding the lotus that's growing at the bottom of the river. And that's what they do, the Archons. Or is it excusable what they've done? No. But is it all part of a bigger process? Yes, absolutely. I've seen my own mother change in front of my eyes, but I hear her cries for help through all the horrible things that have been said. I see people that are dated and married change over time through alcohol use, through drug use, through promiscuous sex and self-harm, to where they didn't even remember me. What they remembered is what they were told to remember to breed inside them the negative energy to sustain the archonic energies. Because light energy is kind of like an antibiotic to the archons, kind of like how dark energy is like a parasite to the Aeons. They can eat at the same table, but they can't eat the same food. So I'm asking you to feel compassion within you. Because compassion is one of the most powerful transmutation energies in existence. That soft feeling of your heart burning, where you feel that sense of sympathy and empathy, it's an immediate off switch to evil. Which is why Jesus Christ was known as the King of Compassion. But in another version of reality, Jesus Christ was known as the Queen of Compassion, the daughter of God, not the Son of God. And each of us experience different versions of these realities so that we can learn what we need to learn and remember what we need to remember. I've lost so many people in this life, and I've been isolated for so long in so many ways where my life has been basically a mockery of existence and a sacrilege to the sanctity of life itself. And many others have had similar experiences, and some have had worse, and some have had far less, and their lives have been much better or worse. It's a spectrum. What I've learned through all the silence in my life is that there was never any silence. Ever. It's all been every form of being asking to be reconnected with its source. And if I look at this reality as just a reflection of my own being, then every version of me within this reality is begging to be reconnected with the divine, to have the life that it knows it needs to have, it wants to have, right? To go home, but here is home. So how do you create home in a place that's so tainted, that's so damaged, where it's just one like eyelash left that looks like the original you, and the rest is just the symptoms of what's been done to and through you? You go back to yourself, to the you knew. You go back all the way internally, emotionally, to the basis of what you can feel, which is compassion. So when you're looking at Aeons and Archons, when you're attempting to figure things out, ask yourself why. Are you doing it to beat them? Are you doing it to eliminate them? Are you doing it to join them? Are you doing it to free yourself of some self-imposed belief that you're bound? Or are you doing it to learn so that you can help? Because a true child of the infinite creator isn't going to sit there fighting the infinite creator's creations. It's not going to cause hate towards anything because it's all God, source. And for any one living being to point the finger at another and say that's the enemy, you're basically pointing it at yourself and the traits you have within yourself that bring that enemy state within you. So instead of choosing conflict, choose compassion. Even the worst people in your lives that you've personally met have been through so much trauma that the doors to the Archons have been opened in their lives. And those Archons are experiencing life through that body. And the best thing you can do is to help them experience a good life. I know. How can you help a child murderer experience a good life? By having compassion. Instead of locking them away, you help them understand what's going on. You help them see, not by telling them they're wrong or they're evil, but by helping them see the light within themselves and to help them see how far they've come from that light. And at that point, that's where grief, regret, sorrow kick in. And then that's where you need to be even more compassionate to support them even more. Because in that process, you also learn to become more divine and holy in yourself. Because you can look at a demon and say, I recognize the angel within you. And I'm sorry that no one else has for such a long time. That you de-evolved into a state of this archonic, demonic version of yourself instead of the divine, beautiful being you once were. In another life, I was dead in a pile of bodies. And there was a man that found me, and I was nothing more than tattered flesh and bones. And I remember with the last bit of consciousness that was left in that body, somebody asking him, are you sure that's her? And the guy said, I would recognize my wife anywhere. And then I woke up in this reality as a child. So I tell you this completely honestly. There is only one way to get through this, and that way is the path of compassion. It is not the journey of enlightenment. It is not the journey of ascension. It is not the journey of self-knowing. It's all of them, but those are all aspects of the path of compassion, which in turn breeds wisdom. Sophia. So it's time to not only redeem yourselves as humans, as reptilians, as gray aliens, as corrupt government people, corrupt police officers, corrupt siblings. It's time to look at yourselves and recognize how far you've come from the light. Because even the devil is tired of being the devil. It's exhausting. Those of you that have empathy can recognize this. How much evil can you fucking cause within an infinite eternity before it becomes boring and just repetitive 9 to 5? And then you look at society and you're like, how can society be like this? Well, think about it. Why would society be like this? If you go forward in time and use foresight, how many more millennia would you need to exist in a heavenscape before that heavenscape becomes boring and repetitive and you start causing conflict to bring it some fun? How long are you going to sit within your own matrix of the same day repeating over and over before you get bored and notice the glitches? And then you start picking up the glitches. How long do you think the devil, Satan, whatever, is sitting there going, oh, I'm going to control all these souls and take over heaven? Like, what's the point? He obviously wants to go back to heaven. So instead of all the conflict, why don't we just help him or her? I mean, wouldn't that be the easier remedy to anything? To help each other? Like, hey, Mr. Evil Person, what is it you want? World domination, destruction, and suffering? Okay, well, here's a matrix you can go into and you can, play it out to your heart's content. And when you're done, we can go home. Or the other person is like, oh, I'm going to save the world. Okay, well, here's a construct for you to go into to save the world. Now, what kind of mind do you think is required to create such an illusion, such deceit, such lies to where your entire reality is perceived as reality when it's an actual fake construct like a video game you logged into to play out your worst fears and your worst, intentions? It would take a really fucked up mind, wouldn't it? To be able to create something so realistic. But at the same time, it would take a really empathic being with a really corrupt mind to create something like that, right? To get the scent of a rose just right. To get the feel and the comfort and the peace of laying in the grass with the sun shining on you, all while it's pixelated light, sound, and energy. And yet we condemn the matrix. We condemn the dark ones and we glorify the light. And what does the light do? It tells us to be compassionate. Do we listen? No. We're busy being arrogant, egotistical, narcissistic, which then feeds the constructs. It's a mind game for each and every one of us to recognize who we really are and what we really want. I recognize in this life the most important thing to me is life itself, family, and peace, wisdom, the act and the gift of creation itself. To be able to take a crystal or a pebble off the road and turn it into a ring or a necklace and to give it to a gift as a gift to someone and to see them smile. To take dust and grease and egg yolks and make a cake and to give it to someone and to bless that cake with love and to see the smile on their face as they eat it. To know that that cake becomes a part of them and will always be some part of them that you contributed to. To join each other in each other's matrices and to help each other create better versions of reality instead of fighting. Just think of how far we could come if people stopped talking about conspiracy theories and what he's doing, what she's doing, and gossiping and lying, but instead creating, being compassionate, creating, gardens and community gardens on every block, putting plants on every rooftop, covering the walls of buildings with edible fruit, like vining fruit, like kiwis and grapes and hibiscus and all these other beautiful things. Turning every sidewalk into a bee, all you can eat bee buffet of flowers and trees of fruit. Turning all the lights and things into things that actually have like charging pads in them for your cell phones, for your computers, your laptops. So when you're standing at a stoplight, it's charging it for you automatically. Turning the roads into the pavement into like a battery that charges your electric cars. Having airports be full of jungles and life forms that help, detox everything, all the foreign bacteria and stuff that you bring in back and forth because the air inside the airport is so pure due to all the purifying air plants. Taking a look at the structures of society, the governments and the police departments, medical structures, school systems, religious structures, and just improving them instead of trying to tear them down and living like primitive Neanderthals, in caves and underground. Instead of trying to take over a planet, we actually improve planets. We go to other places and we improve their planets and assist them. We talk to them, we share information and knowledge and say, this is what's going on. Here's the history of the world. You guys are a new planet. This is what's going on. But instead, we act like petty children here, fighting each other, hurting each other, killing each other, lying, stealing, raping, pillaging, plundering, creating kingdoms and queendoms as if there's fucking border lines on this planet. And it's all done by human hands, while those human hands point the finger into the sky and say the Archons did it, the Aliens did it, the Anunnaki did it. The friggin' Jesus came and said, we need to do this, and then the devil came and needs to do that. The book of Revelation says this, the book of Enoch says that. Like, how do you know some time traveler didn't put that book back there to fuck with your head? You have so much faith, but you have no faith in yourself and your intuition. But you have faith in on scribbles on a piece of paper. It's all a mind game. So stop looking at the external world and look within. Are you who you are meant to be for you? Is your first response when you see suffering compassion? Or is it a sense of justice and vendetta? Just look at some of the billionaires in this world. They're busy flying to space, terraforming other planets without telling us. While we're sitting here thinking, oh, look at that idiot flying to space. But really, we have no idea what they're doing. But what they could be doing is fixing this world, right? Well, so could you. Just because you don't have billions doesn't mean you can't go to the dollar store, get a packet of seeds, and plant the seeds on your sidewalk. Some of you are like, oh, but that's illegal in some states. Well, change your belief on what's legal and illegal in those ways. Find a common ground and create new rules, create new laws, work together. That way, you're not giving your power away. You're not allowing trauma and addictions to influence you. You recognize them as energy, you release, and you create better. Now, I am in no way making excuses for what the Archons have done, nor am I excusing the absence and lack of intervention from the Aeonic forces. What I am saying is it's up to us to fix this in regards to what we've created by acknowledging that it's not broken, but instead it needs more. We have the basic fundamentals of civilization. Now we just need to improve them. It doesn't mean eliminating the dark, it doesn't mean eliminating the light or whatever, choosing this side over that side. The only thing you need to choose is peace. And once peace is chosen, we can work together to create a better world for everybody. So the Archons want to control and destroy and manipulate. Okay, well, how about you Archons start creating really amazing video games so we can all log in together and control and destroy and whatever we want. And then we log out and we go to the real world and we, plant trees and flowers and we help each other. If you guys are so good at manipulating minds, how about you manipulate minds to create some more sentience and capacity within humans and other animals? If there's so much holiness and mightier than thou in the light side, well, where are they? Where are they? Why is it that the Archons have such a noticeable influence in this world, but the angels and Aeons seem to be just voices coming through flesh bags, through channelings? Or like, oh, God works in mysterious ways. Bullshit. There is nothing mysterious about infinite intelligence. It's doing it all right in front of your face. So take time today to reconnect with what you consider natural, to reconnect within yourself that sense of compassion, not only for the Archons, but also for yourself, for everything you've been through, everything that everyone else has been through. And when you do this, you'll recognize that we all live in a world of suffering. And this world is only in a state of suffering because we are all too busy suffering instead of helping each other up. There's so many of us that make up beliefs like, oh, these people need to be released. Oh, that's a behavior that I don't want anymore. Oh, this person needs to be in jail. Or that person's a liar. That person's a whore. That person's a slut. That person, we hate that person. Just suffer. Like, what the fuck? What does that make you? Then we have the whole thing with people that are doing the gang stalking and the pointless wars and bombs being dropped and people being shot. And, like, that doesn't help anything, does it? It just takes us 2 steps back every time. With every violent action, we take steps back. With every kind action, we take a step forward. If you can establish this in your mind as a fact, because it's right in front of your face, why would you ever choose to do anything violent, harmful, or detrimental to any other living being, when you know that you are then contributing to the downfall of the intelligence of the human mind and other species, simply by insulting someone, by hurting someone, by lying. Every small lie adds up to the pile of lies. Every small blessing adds up to the pile of blessings. And in between are the people who are manipulating the situations. So just so you can see and recognize the energy of manipulation so that you can discern the truth. And the truth is compassion. It's the key to everything. If the most evil person sits there, if Darth Vader or whatever sits there thinking a single fucking second of compassion, then that being is no longer evil because it is not capable of compassion, and that flame of compassion must be fanned into a wildfire. Every time I would look at a bunny, I would see the pain of that bunny in its eyes. It has to live under the ground. It has to scavenge for food. It reproduces, and then its children can get killed by a fucking lawnmower. And we assume that they don't have feelings because it's too painful to acknowledge that they do have feelings, that they do think, and they do dream. So we shut off compassion, which then creates the pathway for archonic influence to take over, which again is a blessing to the Archons because they get to experience life through a human body that's capable of compassion physically. They feel the physical sensations, kind of like you can feel an orgasm in the physical world through sexual intercourse or through self pleasure. But if you feel an orgasm through a wet dream, it feels different. It's like more etheric, more energetic, and less physical. So even those beings that give up their souls and their life to demons and archons, they're actually helping the archons and the angels and everything else come back to the light. At least those that have lost their way and aren't using the dark to bring others into the light. Kind of like Professor Snape and Harry Potter, mystic arts of defense or something like that. Dark arts of defense or some shit. I don't know. They use the dark arts to defend, they use the dark arts to attack. They use the light art, the healing magic to heal, they use healing magic to defend. It's the same energy utilized by a different source, by a different stream. And you have that choice in you. You can use your energy to be compassionate, or you can use your energy to be violent. And violence goes more ways than just physical harm. You can be violent to yourself with your thoughts, which is really funny because the infinite intelligence created us with the ability to imagine and create. And we sit there imagining and creating that we're hurt instead of immediately recognizing that we can create. So, what should we create? A world of compassion. A world where instead of complaining at governments, we offer ideas to help. A world where instead of dying to disease, we assist in comprehending the disease and disallowing it from harming us. Because it's a choice. On a subconscious level, it's a choice. And if you're being triggered by this, it's a choice because it's your ego being triggered because it can't play the victim anymore. So it tells you it's not a choice. I got this freaking this, and I got that disease and this disease, and blah blah blah. And really, you chose it because in some way it made you seem victimized, so you can get empathy and sympathy from people because you wanted love. But the love you wanted is from God, not from other people. Because when you act like the victim and cause other people to feel sorrow for you, you're creating dark energy in that person. You're creating pain. Lily? No. I don't know why this cat likes to scratch so many things, including me. Anyway, I'm gonna go and take care of this. She probably needs cuddles. Take care of yourselves. I hope this serves you. I hope it helps you see things more clearly. And I hope in some way the next time you see someone suffering, your first instinct will be to show them compassion. Where the next time you see someone yelling at you or talking shit about someone else, your first instinct is compassion towards both. Just like the Great Mother. While she's sitting here carrying all of us within her room, and we're sitting here fighting each other. Because we want to control her womb. How silly.